All right, Rabosai. Good evening. Good evening. It's to be back with everyone. Let's begin. We are picking up Mem Gimel on days 43b. We are picking up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down. Yeah, 6 lines down actually. The last of the short lines. Rav Mishar Shia says as follows. Some interesting halachas. Supposed to say some beautiful agadata today as well. So Mishar Shia says as follows. He says, "Hai narkum diganu nisa." So narkum diganu nisa literally means a rose that grows in a garden. So this rose that grows in a garden, mevarchin eluya borei atse bisamim. Ultimately, again, the bracha that we make on it is the bracha of borei atse bisamim. Okay, so the Gemara says, the dabra. What if the rose grows in the desert? So then what's the halacha? Borei isve bisamim. We recite the bracha borei isve bisamim. So again, we've actually seen this distinction before between Atse B'Samim, Isve B'Samim. You know, it's interesting. The Mishnah brings down that very often, sometimes it's hard to distinguish which is Atse, which is Isve. Right? So, interestingly enough, there's kind of a way to take care of this whole problem. What's the way to take care of this whole problem? Bore Mine B'Samim. So kind of what I would say, like what shahakol is to food, so Bore Mine B'Samim is the scent. It's the scent, right? That anything you go ahead and you say Borei Minei B'Samim on, whether again it grows from the ground, whether it's a tree, again Borei Minei B'Samim is always going to work. Okay, Amud Yomi, Hani Sigali Mivarchin Alei Borei Isve B'Samim. So we'll say it's another type of flower. The Sigali flower make the bracha Borei Isve B'Samim. Armar Zutra. Hayman demorach be'esroga. So we'll say, by the way, this is actually very important because halacha l'maisa, what the Gemara is sensitizing us to is that quite literally, if you stop to smell the roses, which is a very good and beautiful thing to do, halacha l'maisa, there is a bracha that is recited over that. And especially if it's a flower that is growing from the ground, the proper bracha over that will be borei isve b'samim. If it's something that grows from let's say a bush, or let's say a tree, it'll be borei atse b'samim. Again, there's more involved technical details than this, but again, at least that'll give you kind of the overall approach. So Mar goes weiter. Amar Zutra, Hayman demorach be'esraga or bechavusha. What happens if one smells an esrog or a chavush? Chavusha is a quince. So in this case over here, I'm smelling food items. So what's the halacha over here in this particular case? What is the halacha? Rashi says over here. Rashi says, just gives the fine. So what's the halacha? You say Omer Baruch Shenasan Reach Tov Beperos. So that's the bracha. You say Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. Right, blessed are you, Hashem, Master of the universe. Shenasan Reach Tov Beperos, who has infused beautiful scent into fruits. Okay, beautiful. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Hayman dinafik biyomi Nisan b'chaze ilani dekama lavlavin. If one goes out during the days of Nisan and he sees the trees begin to flourish, begin to bud, Omer Baruch Shelo Chisar Ba'olamo Klum. He recites the bracha, blessed are you, Hashem, who has not, literally again, there's nothing missing from your world. Ubori bo brios tovos. He goes and he creates good creations, v'ilanos tovos, and good trees, lehisnaos bohen b'nei adam, for people to enjoy them. So I'll say it's quite beautiful. If you think about this, this is so fascinating, right? So this is what we call Berachos Lanos. We have this today. There's a what street is it on? There's a tree every year. They have it here in Iraq. There's also the street that runs Willow Glen, on Willow Glen, right? So on Willow Glen, I don't know, it's a corner house. They have it every year. They have on the corner of Willow Glen. I don't know what the corner is. What is it? Copperfield. So it's beautiful. They always have the same tree, and they have put the I don't know who lives there, but it's quite beautiful. They put the bracha out there also every single year. So it's interesting if you think about this, right? So the bracha. So you go out, you see the trees blossoming in Nisan. So look at the text of the bracha. Baruch shelo chisar ba'olamo klum. Blessed are you, Hashem, who has not caused anything to be deficient from your world. Right? Your world has everything, and you create beautiful creations and beautiful trees. It seems to be such a tremendous bracha to be recited over the sprouting of a tree, right? So literally, again, so Hashem, you've caused nothing to be lost in your world. So it's interesting. I'll say there is a certain these were like a certain excitement or a certain historic awakening that occurs when you see nature. There's something gripping. There's something beautiful. I remember we used to go to New Hampshire during the summer. When my kids were young, we used to go off often for the summertime trip. And I remember whenever we used to go, the people would always say, "Oh, it's beautiful in the summer. You should come back in the fall." So apparently, like the fall foliage, when everything changes, there's something gripping about nature that when a person sees it, it awakens something inside of them. The Rambam writes in Hilchos Deos that if a person wants to come to an appreciation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how do you do it? Look at the natural world. I mean, you know this, right? You see a sunset, you see a sunrise, you see the fall foliage, you see nature coming back to life. There's something that it awakens inside of you that's very different than a shir, right? Different than a drasha, different than anything else that causes us to be inspired. Nature has this overwhelmingly inspirational impact. So it's almost as if when you see nature generating. So what does a person say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam? Everything is in your world. You've left nothing out. Why does the regeneration of nature cause such a spiritual stimulus to man? Because let's remember again, we know the pasuk says, "Ki ha'adam eitz hasada," man is like a tree of the field. When a person sees the natural world coming back to life, what does that remind me? It reminds me that no matter how dead I look on the outside, and no matter how dead I feel on the inside, at the end of the day, there's always the possibility to spring back to life. If the natural world, which looks so barren and so dead during the winter months, could then sprout back into life, if the inanimate natural world could do that, then alachas kama v'kama, I who have a neshama, I who have bechira, have the ability to do the same. So it's almost as if you see, when man sees the trees coming back into full bloom, this incredible bracha, baruch shelo chisar ba'olam klum. So beautiful. All right. Amar Rav Zucha Bar Tovi, Amar Rav, Minayin shemevarchen al reach. It was beautiful Gemara over here. How do you know that you make a bracha over scent? Right? So this is interesting. Because, right, we were talking about before, Bore, Isvei b'samim Bore, Atzei b'samim, what you make. So the Gemara says, by the way, just let's take a step back. How do you know that you make a bracha over scent at all? In other words, I understand you make a bracha over consumption. That already we spoke about in the beginning of this parak, right? Because everything belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the only way for you to enjoy it is through the vehicle of a bracha. But how do I know that I make a bracha over scent? From where do I know that? This is so beautiful. Shneinar, Kol HaNeshama Tahalalka. Literally, again, every neshama will praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Gemara says, what does this mean? What is an example of something from which the neshama derives benefit, but the body does not? So the Gemara says, Have Omer Zehareach. This refers to scent. It's fascinating. We'll say, right? You smell something beautiful. It's not like you're full. It's not like you feel satiated. So scent does nothing for the body. So what does scent benefit? Scent benefits the neshama. We've spoken about this concept before, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created man, so the pasuk says, Vayipach ba'apav ruach HaM, Hashem breathed life into man. So life was literally, again, put into man through his nostrils. Right? It was breathed into him. So there's this very strong connection between the soul and scent. We know this, Matzei Shabbos, right? The neshama is sad that Shabbos is over, so what do we give the neshama? Bisamin. Why? Because again, that scent somehow awakens the neshama. Right? There's a very beautiful minhag that many have to smell bisamim on Erev Shabbos also. Right? On Erev Shabbos also, to awaken the neshama, to go ahead and get ready for Shabbos. Some of the bris milah. You'll find different minhagim, but you'll find that the scent is always related somehow to a sensory spiritual experience. So the Gemara says, based on the pasuk, called neshama tahalalka, the soul will praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means that the soul has the ability to connect with the Shekhinah in a way that the body does not. So how does the soul connect in a non-physical way? The answer is scent. I just mentioned to you, just on this pasuk, so much to say in this Gemara. So maybe it's like a Berditch of Zechusi again. The Rebbe says on the pasuk, called neshama tahalalka. So the Zohar writes, B'chol neshima u'neshima tehalaka. With every breath, you should praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Levi Yitzchak writes, what does it mean with every breath you should praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So the Rebbe says, every single time a person exhales, the neshama wants to leave the body. Right? The neshama doesn't want to be here in this world. The neshama wants to be in the olam ha'emes. So every single time a person exhales, so the neshama is ready to leave the body. So what happens? What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu orders the neshama to stay put. So call an neshama to halelka, b'chol neshima u'neshima. With every breath, you have to thank Hashem. Why? Because every single exhale, just know, the neshama is chomping at the bit, so to speak, to get out. So what keeps the neshama in? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The chesed that the Ribono Shel Olam gives us every single moment of every single day by keeping the neshama in the body. Incredible. So the Gemara goes right there. Asidim Bachuri Yisrael Sheyitnu Reach Tov Kilavanon. This is beautiful. We'll say. Ultimately, again, the young men of Klal Yisrael will exude a pleasant scent like Kilavanon, like the cedar trees. Shene'amar Yelchu Yonkosa Bihi Kizayis Hodo Bereach Lo Kilavanon. So what is this referring to? Right. So what is it? So first of all, in general, whenever you see Asidim, right, future is usually a reference to the Messianic era. Right, so the Messianic era, the Bachuri Yisrael. So what's the pshat? So Bachuri Yisrael represents a person who's young. When we're young, we have all of our koach and all of our taiva and all of our desires and all of our wants. The greatest accomplishment in life is when you are still young and you have your full vigor and vitality to become a Baal Tshuva. What is it? So let's reference this. It's almost Yamim Noran, so we have to get started on Tshuva already. It's the season. So the Rambam writes in Hilchos Tshuva that a person could do Tshuva anytime. Right? The Rambam writes even if a person is on his deathbed and he decides to become a Baal Tshuva, his Tshuva is accepted. But the Gemara says, what's a Baal Tshuva Gemura? What's a complete Baal Tshuva? A complete Baal Tshuva is doing Tshuva while you're still young and a complete vitality, like lahavdil. Let's say, so it's interesting. The Rambam often goes ahead and illustrates the examples of Averos with Arayos, with immorality. It's interesting, right? Throughout Hilchos Shavuos, why does the Rambam illustrate things with immorality? Because like the Gemara says, most people struggle with immorality or struggle with maintaining morality. So it's interesting. So the Rambam writes, let's say a man sinned with a certain woman. So let's say he was 40 when he sinned. Okay, so now what happens? Now he's 80. And he's walking around with his walker with the tennis balls on the bottom, right? He meets this woman again, and he's like, I'm going to resist the temptation to sin with her. So again, do you get a shkayach for that? Sure, of course you get a shkayach for that. Of course, again, he's also ready for a nap, so like it's not saying. So in other words, whenever a person becomes about tshuva, they always get credit for it. But of course, you can't compare a person that comes about tshuva when they have their full vitality. In other words, in a doma to that same guy who meets that same woman, a year later, and he's interested in sinning and she's interested in sinning. But this time they go ahead and they resist the temptation. That's tshuva, or I should say that's tshuva gemura. That's complete tshuva. So again, tshuva is always meaningful. Even that 80-year-old guy who again, goes ahead and decides he's going to resist the temptation to go ahead and sin with this. That's meaningful, but not as meaningful as resisting the temptation when I'm in my full vigor. And that's why the Gemara says, Bachure Yisrael. Who, so to speak, gives off the most beautiful scent? Who gives off the most beautiful scent? Bachure Yisrael. Young people who resist the temptation to sin. That is the greatest accomplishment. Right? As we get older and the fires of passion and desires and want, are tempered down a little bit, so there's always still a desire to sin, that's an accomplishment. But Bachure Yisrael, to be young, and I will say young is relative, right? Young is, it's always interesting to see. I think all of us experience this in different ways, how like a person can be very lethargic throughout the day, very tired. And yet sometimes when there is that Avera that you really like, right? So what happens? So suddenly, I'm on, right? I'm up, I'm awake, all different kinds. It's an interesting thing how we kind of like recapture our full vigor when there's something we actually want to do, especially if it's illicit. So Bachur Yisrael, to be young and to resist the temptation to sin, that's the most incredible accomplishment. Beautiful. Let's go back there. Amarav, my beautiful Gemara. Esakol, asa yafa beito. What does it mean? Literally translated over here. Esakol, everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu make beautiful in its time. In its time. This is supposedly from Koheles. So literally translated Esakol, everything, asa yafa beito. Hashem has made beautiful in its time. What does this mean? Melamed shekol echad ve'echad yafala HaKadosh Baruch Hu nasa b'fanav. That was incredible. Every person, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it that people like their professions. Right? So you ever come across this? You ever see like someone does something for a living and you think to yourself, how does anyone do that? right? How does anyone? How could someone spend their life? I don't mean just like you think. I just can't imagine being happy with that, finding fulfillment in that. So Chaburah did something very interesting, which is that he went ahead and he allowed every person to find the good in their profession. Find the good in their profession. Now Rashi points out to us something very beautiful. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this? Rashi says, Yafalo be'it naso, va'afilu bursi no'elo naso be'enam. This is actually a very incredible Gemara. The Gemara says, even a tanner, I will say, if you've ever been to a tannery, it smells horrible. So can you imagine, by the way, again, working in that profession day in and day out, but yet even a tanner finds happiness in his profession. Rashi says, V'asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu kain shelo yechsar ha'olam omnos. Because I think about this just a moment. If it has to be that way, because you need people to do different things and to perform different skill sets. So if at the end of the day, there will be people who like this job, let's say, for example, no one liked being a tanner. So what would happen? You have a big problem, right? No shoes, right? No shoes, So that's an issue. So Chaburah Baruch Hu created the world in such a way. Now again, doesn't mean that everyone is going to want to be a tanner. No, the same way not everybody wants to be an accountant, and not everybody wants to be a teacher, not everybody wants to be a lawyer, not everybody wants to be this or that. Again, but it's interesting how you'll always find people who gravitate towards certain professions. This way, all the professions, ultimately, again, I'll tell you something, I saw something so interesting on Friday mornings. Right? When do they pick up trash? I think there's garbage collection Friday mornings, right? So I don't know the timing, but it must have been last week. I don't know if I was running early or running late. I don't remember, but either way, I was stuck behind the garbage truck. And it was very interesting because, you always wonder, like, what's the pshat? Like, how is that what happens when a person, I don't know, didn't have any other options in life, or just this? So I say something amazing. So the guy was emptying out the garbage, and he picked up a bag, and it opened up on the bottom. And what was interesting was, not fully, but he went back, and he picked up, each piece of trash and threw it out. I was like, wow. It was, I thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for letting me see that, because what did it show? It showed a pride in what he was doing. This is my run. This is my run. This is, he didn't have to do that. In other words, it's garbage on the street all the time. In other words, he could have just moved on, and no one would have ever known where that was from or not from. I thought it was so fascinating that he was, now again, I don't know this person from Adam. I have no idea exactly what his machshavas were, but it was fascinating to see someone take pride in, or at least give off the appearance of taking pride in their work. So the Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu performed a tremendous miracle that every person, kind of in their own job, finds their own pride in work. So the Gemara says, Amar Papa, Hanu Darmi Inshi, and this way again it ensures that all the different jobs, so to speak, get done. So the Gemara says, Amar Papa, Hanu Darmi Inshi, Tala la Kora l'davar acher, v'ihu didei abe. Shabbat said this is quite incredible. The Gemara Papa says this is the meaning of what it says is put a piece of palm, right? A palm branch around the neck of a chazer, around the neck of a pig. Now, apparently, again, a palm branch is a very nice thing. It's very clean. It's very fragrant. Very fragrant. So you put a palm branch around the neck of the pig, around the neck of the chazer. What is the chazer going to do? It's going to roll around in the mud in it, right? Why? Because that's what a chazer does. Right? A chazer rolls around in the mud. So it's interesting how the Gemara is using the example of it, because why? You put the air freshener, around the chazer's neck, he's going to be, this is not me. This is not my thing. This is not my thing. So thank you. It's very nice. It's very beautiful. I'm going to roll around in the mud with it. So Baruch Hu almost programmed us in a way to be able to take pride in what it is that we do and be able to go ahead and fulfill every role that needs to be fulfilled. But we'll say what it also says, also tremendous Gemara, which is that so often in life, we spoke about this in Parashas Korach a little bit, that so often in life, we look around and we say, I wish I was like this person, or I wish I was doing like this, or I wish I had this job, or this role, or this. And too often we fall into the trap of yearning and pining for the roles that other people serve, instead of going ahead and really focusing and maximizing on the roles that we've been given. The Lubavitch Rebbe points out this was the mistake of Korach. Right? So remember again, Korach was from the tribe of Kahas. Kas was one of the most important, from the family of Kas, Shevet Levi. Kas was one of the most important families in all of Klal Yisrael. They transported all of the utensils of the Beis HaMikdash. And yet, what did Korach want? Korach wanted Elitzaphan ben Uziel's job. He wanted Moshe's job. He wanted Aaron's job. And the tragedy of that is he had such a chashuva position. He had such a chashuva entitlement. And yet, again, he totally lost it because he was too busy trying to be someone else. You know, you can learn a lot from everyone and everything, even the chazer. Because you know what a chazer is good at? You know what a chazer is good at? Being a chazer. And that is going to come out strange. Sometimes life is just about being the best chazer you could be. Now I know that doesn't have a good ring to it, right? But you understand, I think the hashkafa of it. Hashkafa created us to fulfill certain things. And sometimes you're supposed to look at others and want to be more like this one, more like that one, emulate this, emulate that. That is true. But sometimes life is also about not as much looking at what everyone else is doing, but rather maximizing the role that you have. You know, this is very, in contemporary society, everything is about, equality. As if we look at, like, the goal is that everyone should be the same. What does the Gemara say? If everyone's the same, then the work doesn't get done. There have to be different people doing different things with different jobs, with different responsibilities. That's how the world runs. If everyone is the same, everyone doing the same thing, then there are gaping holes within this universe. Incredible. Let's go right there. The Gemara says, another minute, then we'll stop. So the Gemara says, good. Amar of Zutra, Bar Tovia, Amar Av. Avuka kishnayim v'yarech kishlosh. All right, so we'll say. So this Gemara we'll start this evening, then we'll have to stop. But the Gemara here is talking about the danger of traveling alone at night. Specifically, again, the Gemara says the danger of shadim. That if a person goes ahead and travels alone by night, there's a potential exposure to shadim. So the Gemara says, okay, so how do you avoid traveling alone at night? So Rav said, avuka, if you travel with a torch, that's as if you're traveling with two people. Right? Yareach, if you're traveling by moonlight, kishlosha. That's ultimately like you're traveling with three people. The Gemara says, avuka kishnayim b'hadidei, o dilma avuka kishnayim lebar mididei. So when we say that traveling with the torch is like two people, does that mean, in other words, does that mean that the torch and me are two together, right? Or does it mean that ultimately, again, the torch is like two and I'm the third? Same idea by the areach. When it says the areach is like three, does that mean the areach is like three and I'm like the fourth? Or ultimately, again, the areach together with me is three. So we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up exactly why that matters. What exactly that means. To be continued tomorrow. I will say opportunity to also thank Rabbi Chaim Spiro so much for giving the shir the last couple of weeks. Clearly, I am slowing down the pace significantly. I think you guys would have been finished by the end of this week, but all right. You have to suffer with me for a little bit. Shkayach, everyone. So tomorrow night, Emirat Hashem, same time, 8 o'clock.